And good evening, everybody, on a Wednesday evening at the end of June. It finally feels like summer here on the Northeast, so hopefully it feels like summer wherever everybody else is at. I am your host, Chris, and of course, with me tonight on the other side there is the wonderful Captain Pike, and we are going to spend the next hour or so, maybe a little bit less, talking about what's coming down the 5e Pike from Goodman Games. There is a lot going on. We're coming off of Free RPG Day this past weekend. Hopefully, everybody went out and visited their friendly local game stores and got lots of free books. I did, although I did notice that I seem to spend more and more money every Free RPG Day buying other stuff in the store. But that is kind of the whole purpose. So hopefully, everybody got out there and supported their local game stores because they need all the help they can get. We are just 5 weeks away, I believe, from Gen Con, which is crazy. It's going to be here before you know it, and then, of course, it'll be gone before you know it, and that means the summer is pretty much over. So we're going to try and enjoy it. So we have a lot of updates tonight, and we do have a special guest waiting in the wings. So I'm going to try and get through our updates. We'll get through all the business stuff first, and then we'll have a good time with our special guest. We're first going to talk about the status of Dark Tower, OAR number 7. Then we're going to talk about Dungeon Denizens and where we are on that. We're going to talk a little bit about, most folks might not realize this, but that we have been releasing slowly several of our older FEF titles on Roll20. So we're going to talk about that. And then a fun project that we've been working on very recently, which will be available at Gen Con printed, will be the 2022 yearbook. We have kind of settled into that we're gonna at Gen Con release the previous year's yearbook. It just kind of seems like it's a pretty cool thing to kind of do. So it'll be a look back and everything. It's weird every time I see it. I see 2022 yearbook. I'm like, wait a minute, is that date wrong? But nope, it's not. So let's just get into it. So Dark Tower, astute backers will clearly understand by this point that they will not be getting their book in June, like we promised a year ago. But I am happy to report that Dark Tower right now is pretty much through layout. We're waiting on just a couple little pieces of artwork here and there, but we have been busy. The teams have been busy proofing both of those layout documents. Folks have to keep in mind that we're talking 600 pages of material for all 3 volumes here, and we're doing it twice since there's a 5e version and a DCC version. So that's 1,200 pages of material that we need to get through proofing. Hopefully we're going to be done with that very soon, and then we will be posting those PDFs to all the backers so that they can get a shot to look at them for a couple of weeks and point out any typos that we missed. And I'm sure we missed typos and stuff. Hopefully they're not too bad. And then it's off to the printer. So, we're still a little bit a ways, but we're getting there. So I do have some images to show you. So if Elena, if you can pop up the first one, we have this is a sample layout 2-page spread of Dark Tower, and this shows off the map of level 2. I believe it is, yes, level 2. As you can see, the map is really kind of a piece of artwork in itself. And then you can see we've got some of the encounters over there on the other page there. So yeah, this is looking really good. And I'll also note, you'll see it better. Actually, let's pull up the second one. I think is going to be next. If you can pull up image number 2, you will see I bring a careful attention to, we're doing something different. This is kind of the first time we've messed with this on an OAR book, but you can see in the bottom treatment there, we've got artwork on the bottom and the trim, and we've kind of got the title and the page numbers kind of hidden in there. So that's kind of new for us. This is a sample page layouts from level 3. So this is the encounter where the son, or I think it was the son, yeah, the son of the big bad high priest is actually trying to cut a deal with some troll mercenaries to try and have his dad taken out, because that's what the evil guys do. So if we can pull up image number 3, so this is actually some encounters on the map from the White Tower of Mitra. So this is actually the tower. It's kind of a tower. It's mostly good guys kind of hold up in here. And this is nestled in and around the rest of the dungeon, which is really kind of cool. It's really evocative design. So you can see the map of one of the levels there on the one page, and then you can see that's actually the encounter from the gnomish kitchen in the other page there, with their statue guardians. And then I think I've got one more image for Dark Tower. If you can pull up image number 4. So this is actually part of the new material that we added. I love that piece of artwork on the left-hand side there. So this is the Tomb of Bastet. So there is a Valley of the Kings essentially section that I added to the Dark Tower Red Moon Pass, and in there's a bunch of small tombs, and we designed 2 of them for you, so you can kind of get a little bit of a flavor. This is a cat-themed dungeon, a small dungeon. You can see the entire levels there on the map on the right-hand side. But I love that artwork there. So it's got basically a trap room, the room full of pits, and there's a bunch of statues, cat statuettes on the altar there. And the altar itself is like a big pressure plate, and if you take one of them off, they're of course gold, but they're just painted gold. If you take one of them off, it triggers all the traps, and not only are they pit traps, they're full of undead rats, which is kind of cool. But don't worry, it's fine. There's the room next door. If you release the undead, the mummy cats will go take care of the mummy rats for you. So kind of got a little bit of a circle of life thing going on there. So that's what we got for Dark Tower. So again, we're super excited. It's basically the last couple of weeks, it's been all Dark Tower all the time, between the layout department and us working on it through. So it is getting really, really close. We're going to have those PDFs to folks sooner than later. And then, like I said, if you've actually been following the comments, a couple of folks have actually been running these adventures, once they get the PDFs before they even get the physical books. So again, this is 600 pages of material, about 500 pages of adventuring material. This is going to keep you busy for months and months and months. So getting a jump start on it would be great. And we're going to talk a little bit about a live playthrough of Dark Tower a little bit later on. So I'm gonna just check back here and see if we've got any comments here that nope, we don't. Yes, 600 pages of goodness. Yes, badness. Yes, that is exactly right. How are you doing, Bug Professor? Hopefully you're doing well. And I see Casey is in the chat and G Blaster as well. So cool. So I'm gonna be I've got several screens going on here tonight, folks, with these pictures and whatnot. So the next thing I want to talk about is Dungeon Denizens. So this is our massive monster book, and again, also DCC and 5e versions. Each of these are going to be 500 plus pages. So we love our big fat books around here. No denying that. A couple of updates on that. Folks will be this Kickstarter ended just a couple of months ago, and I believe our due date on this, I think, is July or even August of 2024. I am happy to report that Dungeon Denizens is actually starting to move into layout. And we have about 90 to 95% of the art is probably done. The last few weeks, we've been working on the backer created monsters that folks sent in. We arrived at our final 20 that we picked. We ran them through development. They have been fully edited, and several of them have also been illustrated already, full color illustrations. So I'm going to share a couple of those, and I believe a few of them tonight. This is going to be the first time folks are going to see them. So it might even be some folks in the chat might actually see their design in artwork for the first time. So I know we shared a couple of these guys in our last update. So things are moving along very quickly with Dungeon Denizens. I also like to report that the Dungeon Delves, which is the separate booklet of short encounters that are going to be based off of the monsters in Dungeon Denizens. We have 15 of those delves have already been submitted, and maps and everything. And so we're waiting about 7 or 8 more of those to get that book completed, and we'll be sending that through editing and getting that laid out. As I mentioned, the 21 bonus monsters are fully developed. Those are pretty much ready to go. So we will, over the next few weeks, months, we are going to be moving into the layout stage proper for this. We've never laid out a monster book like this before, 2 of them. We're anticipating a few bumps along the road, but we're gonna figure it out as we go along. And the next tasks for us to start working on is those appendices, those tables of all of the the types, the CRs, and the terrains and everything. Now that I've got the final monsters in, we're good to go to start working on those. So I'm going to share some artwork with this. So Elena, if you can pull up image number 5. So this is the Cerebral Lurker. This is the backer designed monster that we created through all the polls during the Kickstarter. So this is a crazy, I love this artwork. I definitely wanted to go for the vibrant colors. It was strange. You guys designed the monster and the stats through all the polls, but not really what it looked like. So that kind of fell on me a fair amount. I did actually ask in the comments for some suggestions, and I got a lot of great suggestions, and I actually tried to take a couple of them and kind of mold them together, but ultimately I went for basing this critter off of a sea slug. If you do an internet search on a sea slug, you'll see some really cool pictures pop up. This guy's based heavily off of that. Of course, it's the size of a Volkswagen though, so it's a little bit bigger. And it's got those serrati on its back there, the yellow parts. Those are that's where it emits its psychic wave from. And then you can see it dripping, that oozing dripping. That's like an acidic muscular foot on the underside. And it's got tentacles up there, and it doesn't really have a mouth. It just kind of like moves over you and kind of dissolves you. So it's pretty crazy. It's definitely alien. We really went for something kind of crazy looking and all that, and I had a blast designing it and fleshing it out based on what the backers came up with. So if we can pull the next piece of artwork up. So this is the Drowned Dead. So this was definitely got a Pirates of the Caribbean vibe here. This was, I believe this was actually a DCC submitted under DCC rules. So this is crazy. You can see the coral kind of growths on this dude. He's got like he actually can infect you with this coral infection. And when you actually defeat them and do the killing blow, they'll actually explode, and those coral spores will go in a certain radius and possibly infect you. So really, really cool mechanic there. That's what attracted us to that design. So I don't think we've showed that artwork off before. So this is its world premiere right now. And then if we can pull up image number 7, this one is crazy. This is the Itinerant Grasper. It is basically a fleshy wad of flesh, I guess, and it's attached with arms and shoulders, and some of them have eyes on their hands, and the whole thing kind of can roll, and it's kind of like, it looks like a sea urchin, but it's hands, but it's got this rending roll attack, and it can grapple you when it does that. And it's got a really cool parry ability, where if it's wielding weapons, as you can see there, it can actually parry weapon blows. But if it's grappling anybody, it can actually use the people it's grappling as a meat shield, which I love. I think that's just a really, really cool kind of thematic extra bonus on that one. So that is the Itinerant Grasper. And if we can pull up the next piece, right, and I think this is a premiere of this artwork. I don't think we've shown this one off before. This is the Jolly Crabber. So this is, imagine it looks like a person that's kind of shambling along the shoreline, and it's got a crab pot on its back, and it's got this weird kind of face and everything, but it's literally a fiendish a swarm of evil crabs kind of underneath there. And when you get too close to it, it basically just falls apart into a bunch of crabs, and it basically tries to drag you off and drag you into the depths. Really kind of thematic and everything. I love the imagery that this one kind of foretells, and I love the artwork. I think came out really, really great. I actually like the contrast of the red crabs and then the sea greens and everything and all that in that guy. So that is the Jolly Crabber, and I have one more. I think we might have already shown this artwork. I'm not sure. This is the Spindlefoot. So this is like an underdark creature of your nightmares, and it's kind of spider-like. It's got 5 legs. It's got no real head, or it's basically just like a big maw underneath its body, and it's basically just like a thing of your nightmares, if you will. And those claws are like iron, and they actually they have some special effects against Fae, and can actually paralyze the Fae and everything. So they're just a crazy creation. Really like it was a very solid set of stats that were submitted on that, and it was really kind of appealed us to to this particular monster. So we really kind of got a kick out of this guy. So that's it for now. I'm going to take a look to see if we have any questions in the comments. Hello. Oh, we looks like we do. Yes, yep, everybody loving the monsters. Yep. Yep, okay, pirates. That's the kind of guy really hard to convince. He's fine. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, holy multi-attack. That's a great comment. Yeah, I have to agree with that. Yep, G Blaster, right on. 300 crabs in a trench coat. I mean, that's probably what we should have named them. But I kind of like Jolly Crabber. I don't know. It's just it just works in my opinion. So, cool. All right. So I don't see if you guys do have any questions or whatever, throw them in there. But like I said, right now I'm kind of balancing a whole bunch of screens right now. So I will get to them in between each of our little segments. So next we're going to talk about Roll20. A lot of folks might not realize this, but since the beginning of this year, we've been actually rolling out quite a few of our older titles on Roll20. You know, we were silly. We started back with FEF number 1. And to date, right now, we have FEFs number 1 through 7 are on Roll20. Also, FEF 24 is on Roll20. We also have the Crypt of the Devil Lich token and map pack that is on there too. This is just the product landing page for us. So we're really excited about this. We realize we are way behind the ball on getting our products up on services like Roll20. So it's just now that we've got more staff in place, we've got the resources to kind of put towards the time sink that this is. So we're really excited. We're working with an amazing contractor that helps us put these up together, and I'm going to show off some of the other screenshots of some of these. So I'm going to show you off. This is if you can pull up image number 11. So this is the cover of FEF number 3, Pillars of Pelagia. And you can see there's obviously the cover there, and you can see the beginning of the adventure. And then there's a sample magic item there as well. So this is great. If you've not purchased a full adventure on Roll20 before, everything is hyperlinked. So you just click on something and it brings you right to the encounter, brings you right to the stats, the monster stats, the magic item. It's amazing, and we've been putting a lot of resources into this lately. Hopefully, folks really get a kick of it. If we can pull up image number 12. This is really cool. I didn't even ask for this, but our contractor actually was able to make this work. This is a slide puzzle. If you remember those old slide puzzles when you had to try to get everything in order. This is in the actual adventure slide puzzle, but the players can actually click on these little tiles and they can actually slide them about and move them to actually solve the puzzle, which is really, really cool. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, I do think that role-playing games are definitely best in person around a game table, shared experience, but sometimes you just don't have another option, and doing it online, especially if folks are spread out across the country or even the world, having tools like this are really cool to be able to do that. So I was really pleased about that. And I've got a couple of other screenshots here that I want to show off. If you can pull up number 13. So this is an encounter from FEF number 6. This is Raiders of the Lost Oasis. And this is just the general map here, and I've got pulled up some of the artwork. So what we've done, and I'm going to show this off in the next slide a little bit more, but so we've actually been commissioning color token artwork for all these. So we are doing all of our things come with color tokens. And we're hoping to down the road actually release a couple of just token packs afterwards, after we've start building up our library of token art. So and obviously we've been doing a lot more color lately since we've been doing Dungeon Denizens all in color. So our staff is getting really good at color monsters, and that's an example of a giant sand spider right there. And then you can see some of the other notes and the map on the background. And I think if we can pull up the next image, number 14, so you can see this is the actual token page. So that you can grab all these tokens and use them. They're already sized out. They've already got all their stats in. You click on the token and it'll just bring up their whole stat box and everything for you, their character sheet, if you will. So this is great. I mean, if folks have used online, they know what a time sink it is to actually put. I mean, I know because I'm doing some playtesting right now on Roll20, and it takes a long time to build the maps and to build the stats out and everything, and to get the tokens and everything. So being able to make a purchase and just have this all done for you is just amazing. So hopefully you guys will check out some of our offerings there. And this is our fun. If you can pull up image number 15, Elena. This is the puzzle floor in one of the rooms in FEF number 6. You can see that we've already got the monsters already there. And I've got the little beginning the adventure part over there. And then this is again another puzzle that you can actually pull up and you can actually kind of move your things on based on. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but outside of showing the thing, but it's kind of a really neat puzzle in the room. So I just wanted to show off some of those awesome screen caps of our Roll20 work. I am going to see if we have any questions in the comment here. Yes. Just getting a kick as an answer. People feed me Seymour. Okay, I love that. All right, cool. So no questions. So I'm gonna move on. So the next thing I want to talk about is a really fun project that we get to work on every year. And this is great because this really gives us an opportunity to kind of reflect back on the year that was. And this is the 2022 yearbook. And we'll be completely honest with you. The reason we do the yearbook is the owner, our publisher, Joe Goodman, wants a yearbook done every year so that when he retires in 20 years, he can kick back and he can open up a yearbook from a certain year and he can actually kind of relive all the things that we did and the products that we were working on and everything. So we have just, again, it's an 80-page book. It's actually going to have some color art in it. So first of all, this is 2022. So this is our full return to in-person conventions. So this yearbook has more convention pictures than we would normally do. So it's chock full of convention pictures and they're spread out throughout the entire booklet. We have a feature on the Wizard Van. If you were at Gen Con last year and you saw the Wizard Van, we have a feature on how we built it with a bunch of pictures and some stats on Doombeard. We have an interview with San Julian. We have an interview with the mask maker. If you've been to any of our conventions and you've seen the crazy masks that we've had on display, and obviously the skull mask and the Cyclops mask that you've seen, we actually have an interview with the person who's created all those masks, which is amazing. And we've got a full DCC adventure in there. It's just jam-packed with material. And we've also got some specific 5e material in there, and I want to just quickly kind of go over it right now. So if you can pull up image number 16. So we kind of went overboard with monsters on Dungeon Denizens, and we have actually several left over. So our loss is your gain. So we actually took 4 of the monsters and we put them in the yearbook so you can have even more monsters. So these are monsters that are not appearing in Dungeon Denizens. And we've got them for both DCC stats and 5e stats. We also have some artwork that we've acquired from Jeff Easley that didn't really have another home, so we decided to share it with folks in here. And you can see on the left-hand page here, you can see an awesome Jeff Easley piece there. If you can pull up the next piece. So on the right-hand side here, this is image number 17. So you can see the full color of our Gen Con pictures there. And for some reason, Terry Olson's getting in a lot of these pictures. I got to talk to him about that. And then on the left-hand side, you can see this is the second part of a 5e article that we wrote, and it's got some really cool Indiana Jones, which is on point for this week, artwork there. So this is everybody's got a die 11 just sitting around and not doing anything for it. So we actually created a bunch of die 11 tables that you could use at your game table, and that's a sample of one of them. So we thought that was kind of cool. And then of course there is a fully fleshed out, complete adventure, a 5e adventure in there, written by Alex Kurowski, and he is our special guest tonight. So I'm going to show off a few pages, and I don't even think Alex has seen these pages yet. I'm hoping he's seen some of the artwork. But first of all, this was the original cover art that we were going to use for this. Unfortunately, we ended up using it for the adventure module manual, but it is an amazing piece of artwork. We're going to talk to Alex a little bit about this, but this was basically, I sent him this piece of artwork and I said, can you write an adventure based on this picture? And he said, oh, I certainly can. So that's kind of how it started. So I just love showing off that artwork. The colors in that is just amazing, that vibrant green. But here we go. So this is the beginning of the adventure. So we've got the title splat page there. I love that full page artwork. It really embodies one of the encounters perfectly. And this is it. It's a shorter adventure. So this can be played in one session. And it's definitely, it's a kind of I don't want to spoil it too much, but it's basically like a a tomb kind of in the jungle, and it's got a lot of traps and puzzles. There's definitely some folks to fight in there too, but it's got a little bit of an Indiana Jones feel to it, I would say. So it's really kind of cool. So that was image number 19. That was our first sample page. Here's another sample page of it. So you can see we've got a map on the left-hand side there, and then we've got another image that can be used to actually be shared with the PCs, actually, because that actually just to do with another one of the puzzles that we have. So you can see some more of the encounters there. And then the last one, I want to show off that awesome player's handout. That is one of the puzzles in the party, and the PCs are going to actually, players are actually going to have to use that to actually solve the puzzle and move on through the adventure. And then, of course, we've got a couple of new magic items detailed as well. So we gave the full stats for those as well. So really excited about including that adventure is called Secret of the Slayer's Sword. And we're going to talk to Alex a little bit about that in a few minutes. So with that, I'm going to jump back and see if there's any questions in the chat. And if you guys have any questions for our special guest, feel free to bring them on as well. We'd be happy to deal with those. Let's see. Bug Professor, no, I did not show the artwork for the tongue-eating Simotha yet. That one is still in progress. This can be played. Yes. Cruelest lie ever told. Yes. I guess I should have said that. It should be able to be played in one session. If you have a somewhat normal group. So, but yes, that is right up there with, yeah, I'm agreeing with you on that. Cool. Yes, I will agree that when you're doing Roll20, having more than a 13-inch laptop is actually very important. Okay, so we are going to take a little break right now, and we're going to jump off, and when we come back, Alex is going to be joining us. So we'll be back in 1 minute. All right, we are back, and I am joined by Alex Kurowski. Kurowski? Yeah, okay.
However you want to pronounce it is good with me.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna butcher it with my New Jersey accent, so it's what I butcher everything. So, you say drow, I say dro. So for those of you who don't know, Alex is actually turning into a longtime contributor now at Goodman Games. He has got his hands in a lot of things. Some things he's not even allowed to talk about tonight, but there's a lot of stuff that he can talk about. Almost all of those projects that I just went over in various stages, Alex has had his hands in all of them. So I thought it would be a good time to actually discuss, and talk to him about some of these things. So first, Alex, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
All right. So for those of you who don't know, and I can't imagine there's too many people out there who do not know Alex and what he's all about, but he's in charge of 20 sides to every story. So why don't you tell, for the one or two people that have been living under rocks lately that are in the chat, why don't you tell the folks what that is all about and what you do with that?
Sure. So 20 sides to every story is I guess I could call it a Twitch channel, YouTube channel, but really it's a gaming community, and we sort of collaboratively come together to produce actual plays, various different. Traditionally, it's been mostly 5e, but we have had some Dungeon Crawl classics. We've got an old school essentials campaign going right now, so we try to dabble in. It tends to be a lot of old school kind of inspired stuff. So yeah, we started out on Twitch. We upload our stuff onto YouTube. We've got a actual play podcast that we're producing. So we don't know when to quit and stop creating work for ourselves. But overall, what I would say, our community is, there's probably like two really unique things that I would say makes our group special. And one of those things is, we stream a lot of games, but we're very accessible. So we run something that we call the community campaign, which is I guess you call it a living campaign, but basically our pitch is viewers can come and join us, sign up for games and convention style, come and play in this sort of living sandbox. And typically we've used the original Adventures Reincarnated as sort of the basis for that, going all the way back to into the Borderlands, and most recently we were doing Temple of Elemental Evil. And even though we finished that campaign like well over, feel like it's been maybe a year and a half now since we concluded, we're still living and hanging out in Hamlet and in and around that area. So we've got like six, I want to say six game masters in total that are just coming up with new stuff, homebrew stuff to keep the story of Temple of Elemental Evil going on and on. And I'd say the second thing that makes us kind of unique is we get together once in a while. We'll put together some fundraisers. So we typically do one in the spring to support the Center for Suicide Awareness. And then every fall we participate in Extra Life and try to raise some money for children's hospitals where our people, the people who are running games, are from. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. Excellent. So, yeah, and I hear, first of all, in the chat, Ragnarok is saying 180, saying that you have an awesome Discord too. So don't sell
That is
yourself
true.
short on the Discord. So, and I think that kind of ties in nicely with your accessibility. I think is really, which is great. So I hear that one of your game masters is actually running Dark Tower and has been running for Dark Tower for 8 months now or so, 6 months, 8 months. That's
He,
probably,
he's
yeah.
right there in the chat, so he probably would be able to tell you better than I could actually.
So you guys, so we actually hooked you guys up with after the Kickstarter ended with all of the documents, all of them, and you guys have been running through from the beginning, correct? If I'm not mistaken. So where are you guys at with that?
Yeah, so Casey DJ Coyle, he's there in the chat. He's one of our game masters, and Casey can confirm this for you, but I believe he has familiarity with the original module. I don't know if he played it or ran it you know, back when it was a 1E product. But I believe right now they're kicking down the doors of the second table, the second
Oh,
tower.
okay.
So they're getting
Oh,
ready to do combat with one of the lesser sons of Set, and I think they're gunning for the Lich currently. So
all right.
kind of
Wow.
where
So
they're at in
they're
the module.
cool, and their intention is to do the other book as well, right? So,
Yeah, I think they're going to do all the Chosen Sons of Set
wow.
modules. So
Yeah.
he's already sprinkled in some of like the seeds of that. So they're getting ready to do that. Yep.
Awesome. So yeah, so he's got at least another 6 months to go. At least,
Yeah.
if not more. That is great. Yep, Chosen Sons are lined up. They have the clues. Yeah, this is great. Yep. Oh, this is great. Well, all right. So Reddit wanted to play but never had the peoples, and now he's doing it here in 5e. So oh, that is awesome. So guys, if you want to check out some playthroughs of Dark Tower before you guys even get it, it's all out there on 20 sides to every story on their channel. So I like to, before we get into the questions on the products and everything, I like to hit you with a bunch of just general questions to let folks kind of get to know you a little bit.
Sure.
So Alex, when did you actually start playing tabletop role-playing games? Do you remember the date, the year, the time?
I can generalize basically when, but yeah, I pretty vividly remember. Because my dad had, game closet and everything, and we had all sorts of, um, probably stuff that you wouldn't see at other families, game closets. But I remember playing like Dungeon, the board game, and we had Hero
Yes.
Quest and those kinds of things. But there was a Moldvay basic, set in there that had Keep on the Borderlands in there, and I would flip through and read it as a kid. I was probably like maybe third grade or something, and I just begged my dad to play it because I was into like role playing games for Nintendo and SNES and things like that. And so we got the family together to play. I was probably like 9, 10, maybe.
Wow. Wow.
But then we had, you have to rope the sister in, so she was probably about 7 or 8, and mom, they have no interest in it, right? But
Of course.
there was like this one session of good, exploring the keep area and hiring all the wrong NPCs and then going out into the caves of chaos. And then, my dad, who illustrates for Goodman Games, he definitely wasn't like a have a soft touch, like the first group of kobolds that we met, it was a slaughter. So, but and so we had, hightail it back to the keep, and I think that was the only game, the only session of that game that we ever played. But it left me wanting more, and I didn't play again until like high school when I could third edition came out, and there's a little bit of buzz about D&D again, and so I was able to find some people to play some homebrew stuff, and then went off to college and then didn't touch it again until like maybe 2013, 2014. I haven't been in the grand scheme of things playing all that long. But it escalated to, running a Twitch channel. So the addiction is very real.
Oh wow, that's great. Do you have a favorite non-D&D tabletop role-playing system, or are you just a D&D type of person?
Well, I guess I could say, probably Dungeon Crawl Classics is the second thing
Okay.
that's at the top of my list that I play the most often, but maybe that's a little too expected that I would say that. Um, I'll say I don't know if I have a favorite non-D&D system, but I'll say that the next one that I'm preparing to play is a system called Symbaroum by Free League. It's sort
Okay.
of it's a Swedish developer or Swedish creator. It's very kind of grim dark, but it's got some old school elements to it. It's a roll under system.
Okay.
No character classes or anything. You kind of build your character based off of abilities that you could pick. So you can create like a really eclectic type of character, but it'll suggest for you like pick these things if you want to create the classic barbarian, or pick these things if you want a classic wizard. And probably like the one feature about it that's really appealing to me is it's got kind of a corruption mechanic, sort of similar
Okay.
to Dungeon
Hmm.
Crawl Classics, but it's not exclusive to wizards. Like anybody can say, "Yep, I want to re-roll that die. Give me some corruption, please, sir." And gnarly things happen to your character up to handing your character sheet over to the game master to make
Oof.
them the big bad or whatever. So yeah,
Oh.
that's the next one that's on my list.
Oh, that sounds really cool. So, it's funny. I'm actually going to jump ahead here because somebody in the chat actually wanted to know, actually asked you, Alex, if you were a monster, which would you be? So I'm going to
Oh,
kind of turn that, and that would be like, I was going to ask you, what is your favorite classic D&D monster? So maybe you can answer both questions at once. What your favorite monster is, and then if you were a monster, which would you be, or which would you want to be?
yeah, it's a little bit different. He knows who the person who asked that knows who what my favorite monster is, but that's a different question. What kind of monster would I be? I mean, it'd probably be like I don't know, what are those called? Nilborgs, the little the fey goblins that are
Yeah.
kind of tricksters. I'd pick that one.
Okay. And what is your favorite monster?
My favorite monster is, I don't know if this is like in the camera here, but I got to go
Oh,
with the
I
boulet
see.
or the boulette.
Yes, I've got one on, you can't see him. I've got a fake background, but yes, I've got one on my shelf as well because I saw that at PAX Unplugged last year, and I was like, I have to have that. It's like, to go with my Rust Monster. So, that's
Yeah.
cool. That's a great old school classic monster right there. That is perfect. So, all right. So, I'm gonna get right to these other fun questions then. So, what is your favorite classic adventure module? Favorite of all time?
Yeah, I think I don't know, it's probably a boring pick, but my gut reaction again is keep on the Borderlands. Like
Okay.
it's probably partially nostalgic, you know, but for a lot of people it's their first experience with
Hmm.
D&D. And I think it's got all of like the essential elements of a good um kind of sandbox adventure. You've got your home base that
Yep.
you can kind of make your own and get to know the NPCs and kind of maybe build up or make enemies of. You've got uh, a big, massive dungeon complex with different monstrous factions that you could manipulate or talk to or slaughter, however you choose to do that. Um, it's pretty adaptable too. Like you can really drop that adventure into kind of any setting, and it's not going to feel anachronistic, or you could tailor make it fit your world that you're building. So
Yeah. Agreed. No, that's a solid answer. That's definitely a solid answer. Excuse me. What are your three favorite movies?
this was like the one that was on the list that I was like not too certain about. I think I'd say Groundhog's Day. There's a movie called Nebraska that I really like, and then probably the Lord of the Rings movies, like maybe Fellowship of the Ring,
Okay. Yeah.
stays at the
Yeah.
top of the list for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Fellowship of the Ring is I need to rewatch all those actually. It's been a while. I can't believe they're like 20 years old now.
Yeah, but
But yeah, it's
they
like
hold up.
They do. And Fellowship of the Ring itself was like perfect. I mean, it was just I just remember I went and saw that on a midnight showing, and I was just blown away. I was just absolutely blown away, and I was like, wow, movies can be good. Like, you
Right,
know, so coming off of the heels of all the prequels.
right, right.
Cool. So, what is your favorite food? You know, the type of food where if it's there, you're going for it.
I don't know. Like more recently, I've kind of developed a persistent habit of ordering wings pretty much on the regularly. I've got a friend that's been like bottling like sauces and things like that, and so it's
Okay.
kind of like the perfect food for trying out whatever he's got, right? So,
Nice.
that,
Perfect. That's awesome. So, all right, this is this is a weird question. I stole this question from my wife. She used to ask us when she was interviewing people to hire them. She would ask them this question: "What is your favorite Muppet?" It's because you can tell so much about people by like what their favorite Muppet is. So,
yeah.
what is your favorite Muppet?
I mean, it's hard to choose one, but probably Ernie.
Okay.
I don't know if you
Okay.
subscribe to the Order Muppet, Chaos Muppet theory of relationships,
I do
that
not. I
any
do
good
not.
couple has an Order Muppet and a Chaos Muppet. So my
Okay.
wife and I have decided that I'm, the Ernie and she's the Bert,
Okay, okay. Well,
basically.
that makes a lot of sense. Wow. Okay,
So
I'm learning something here. I am learning. So, and now this is the deep, thought-provoking question of the night. If you could have dinner or an extended conversation with any one person, alive or not, in history, whatever, who would that be and why?
I think I'd say Terry Pratchett. And
Ooh.
I
Okay.
say that as someone who's not very well read on his works, but
Okay.
my wife is like a huge fan, so she's got like every Discworld book imaginable.
Hmm.
Um, and so I've read a few of them, and there's just something kind of unique and fascinating about his style of world building and storytelling. It's humorous, but it's not like cringy, and
Hmm.
he always kind of sends a message but it isn't too preachy, and it just seems like he's written a book or has developed an idea about just about anything that you could like kind of think of. So like literally like when I'm writing one of these modules or I'm like trying to come up with something for a game I'm running, like the first thing I'll do is go to my wife and be like, okay, is there a Discworld book about this, whatever the idea is? And 95% of the time she's like, there's something sort of like that here, read this. And
Yeah.
it kind of works to help me out with some inspiration sometimes. So it'd be
Oh, that's
interesting to
awesome.
have a conversation with him and get his ideas about
That's great.
storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. That's I love it. I love it. So what products have you been working on for Goodman Games lately? And we're gonna obviously jump into a bunch of them, but what have you been busy that you're allowed to talk about, that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah. So yeah, obviously we were talking about Dungeon Denizens earlier, and
Hmm.
so it wasn't that long ago. I feel like was working on some of those two-page dungeon delves.
Yep.
And so I think I designed maybe four of those.
Yes.
And then of course, the most recent thing I think that I had submitted was an adventure for Dark Tower,
Yes.
um, called the 7 Days of Set, or sorry, 7 Days of the Serpent God.
Yeah, which we know is set. So, but
Yes.
yes, Serpent God's much more generic. So we like that for a title. So, well, let's talk about the Dungeon Delves first a little bit. So, so obviously you designed several monsters for Dungeon Denizens. So it was pretty natural when we decided to do this Delves book and have it be part of the Kickstarter. We're like, well, we should reach out to folks who've already done, you know, a dozen monsters or so, so it was pretty easy to actually come to you and do that. So, and you actually did a couple. You want to tell us about one of them and give us a little thumbnail sketch about what it's all about and kind of designing an adventure in 2 pages and how, you know, challenges that is and everything.
Yeah. So a couple of them you can see actual plays of because we did the play test kind of during the Dungeon Denizens
That's right.
Kickstarter. So we did one for the Portal Worm, the Barrow of the Portal Worm, and the Lair of the Slag Pit. So um those are both, you can find those on YouTube. So I won't go into like too much detail on those. But I wrote one that I think I titled Terror in the Tree,
Yep.
and it's an adventure that features a towering infernal tree that's just growing in the middle of a forest wherever you drop it, and it's inhabited by these creatures called infernals, I think is it's got to
Yes.
rhyme with squirrel. They're
Yeah.
infernal squirrels essentially, and so the conceit of the adventure is these things have planted this thing in the material plane and are cultivating it for some kind of a infernal invasion. And so the adventurers basically have to scale the tree and try to locate these creatures in the center of power at the summit of it and face off against these creatures.
Cool.
So that one, I think the inspiration for that was definitely like the South Park episode with the woodland critters, where there's
Uh-huh.
all the little like cutesy little critters, but they're
Yep.
all demon worshippers or whatever. So
Yeah.
um,
Yes.
there's
Yes.
kind of a lot of like contrast of cuteness and kind of the kind of satanic influence of these creatures, and you don't want to get too close, don't want to pet them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm the one that designed the unfurls. So yeah, I'm totally looking forward to that one. I actually have that one ready and prepped to go. I actually, whenever I go to my local 4-H for our game club, I always actually have something to run just in case a game master doesn't show up. So I actually have that ready with me and all the stats and everything that I need. I'm actually pretty excited about hopefully busting that one out too. Plus a couple of the delves are perfect for that because we play for like 2 hours and it's a perfect drop-in session for a one night shot. Or as we've joked about, yeah, oh yeah, it's only one session until your players get a hold of it, and it's not. So
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so
The I find them to be kind of a lot of fun to write because the simplicity of it, I guess, is like kind of think
yep,
up a monster and like design the whole thing around why would that creature be at the center of this adventure, and like kind of
yep,
working backwards from that is just
yeah,
um kind of satisfying. You can kind of sit down and like make a lot of progress and see the progress of that creative process kind of almost come to maybe fruition within a day or so, whereas
yeah,
other like a whole module you might be sitting on it for a month or more, trying to
yeah,
make all the complicated little pieces kind of fit together. So no,
yeah.
those were some of the most fun projects I think I've probably worked on.
Cool. That's awesome. And it's funny, in general, I don't like them because it's too short. And it's just like, I'm way too wordy when I write. So it's like, and I actually designed a couple of them, and it really teaches you to, like, just, cut out and anything that is absolutely not necessary. Oh, that read aloud text is 4 lines long, make it two. It's
Yeah,
just like, it really gets you to focus it down and get that onto the 2 pages. So it's definitely a skill, I think, a skill I know I'm not good at. So, but it is, yeah. I always tend to think I get too complicated. I'm like, I'll add this and I'll add this and I'm like, oh well, it's way too long now. So it's like next thing I know, I have like a whole 5,000 word adventure. So, cool. So the next part, let's talk about Secret of the Slayer's Sword, which you wrote, which I showed off several of those pieces. Hopefully, you got to see those while I was discussing them and everything. And I forgot to mention, I cannot believe I had it on my sheet of paper and I had underlined it everything. That yeah, this little short module, Secret of the Slayer's Sword, is a father and son duo because we had your dad Cliff work on the artwork and the player's handout for it, and then you actually were the designer. So I think that's cool. I don't know. I mean, I might be the only person to think that's cool, but I think it's really neat to be able to do that. So, um,
I don't know if I'm making this up in my head, but this is so I have seen them, right? And you had shown the picture of it was Dracusa on the skull in like kind of the
yep,
big final combat or whatever. And I swear I was like, we live in the same town, so be over visiting my parents with my son or whatever, or dropping something off, and I was in his workroom and I saw that picture like pinned to his corkboard, and I'm like, there's no way that's not that encounter, right? So
nice.
he hadn't even like maybe mentioned it, and I was like, "What is this?" And then he's like, "Oh yeah," and he started, filled me in that you guys had contacted him about doing the work for that one.
Yeah. So no, it is really cool and everything. So so tell us a little bit about the adventure. Somebody in the chat had asked if there were full stats in that adventure. For the NPC, there definitely is, and then for there are some regular monsters that occur in there. Those we just referenced that are in the they're not in Dungeon Denizens, they're actually in like the regular monster manual. So but yeah, we do generally try and include the the full-blown stats if it's an NPC or something, so you don't need another book for it. So yeah, it's a complete thing. You should be, if you've got a monster manual, you'll be able to run that adventure fully. So so tell us a little bit about your inspiration and your design of that encounter adventure, excuse me.
Yeah. So I think basically the first thing you gave me was that piece of art that you had showed earlier, and I was familiar with the adventure that it was. I think that it was. This is Dracusa. She shows
Yep.
up in fifth edition fantasy number 5 into the Dragon's Maw, which was an adventure I had because I ran that like when I first started kind of getting back into D&D. I bought that one, so I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. And so basically I guess like the design element that I was going with for this adventure was like, how can I create an adventure that would set up an entire campaign arc for a game master? And so that's kind of what, in theory, this adventure could do. I won't spoil it, but the secret in the name is totally a thing that could set up a whole campaign for a group. So basically, the adventure is so in Dracusa in fifth edition fantasy number 5 was kind of described as, so she's a half dragon Medusa. And she is present in the adventure because I don't know. My take on reading that description of her is that she's very kind of seeking approval from a parental figure, and that she was there, trying to delve into her draconic lineage, perhaps. And so I decided to go a little further with that and say, if she escapes or lives, after the initial adventure, what would she do? And so I sort of invented the idea that perhaps she had a ancestor even further back who was like halfway through the process of becoming a Dracolich, and she had half the information maybe to find its phylactery layer and try to contact it, or try to interact with it in some way. And so the adventurer's involvement in the adventure comes about because on her way to this location, she stops by a village, grabs a couple of villagers to use as fodder in the dungeon that the players are going to be exploring. And so one way or another, the adventurers get contacted because of that involvement of hers, and then they follow the trail of her to this location. So I think it's like 4 encounter areas in total. So this is one where I have very limited word count. And so okay, it's a phylactery layer, so it's probably should have some wards and some protections on it, but I can't populate this thing with a ton of encounters and traps. So I got to come up with kind of like one cool thing maybe at the beginning that serves as a deterrent to anybody that happens upon this location. And so there's sort of a big puzzle in the very beginning that will test the players maybe knowledge of breath weapons, I will
Yeah,
say.
I would say
um
that would be a good way to say it.
so bring your characters that have like heavy dex or con saves, but that's not enough. You think maybe you know what's going on with the trap, and it's not quite enough. You gotta twist your thinking a little bit to get through it. So
Cool.
there's that, and of course it concludes with the big battle that was showcased in that piece of art with Dracusa.
Yeah, it's fun. So the adventure, it's for 12th level characters. So definitely bring your high level characters for this one. If you don't have 12th level characters, you can go grab the 12th level characters on our website that we did create for the pre-generated characters for FEF number 5. So no problem there. But it definitely has an Indiana Jones feel to it. The tomb is definitely there, and it's ironic because when I wrote FEF number 5 years ago, and it was literally going to be it's literally a dragon in a cave. I mean, it was like basically we're like, we want something for free RPG day. Let's do something high level for a change. I'm like, let's just do a classic dragon lair. And then I was like, well, I gotta have a couple of other encounters too. And I created Dracusa, and she actually kind of steals the show in that module. Like everybody who's played that adventure they always mention Jacusa. They're always like, oh, and it's like in the fight with the Medusa, because I created it in that original module to basically be just like Clash of the Titans with an interesting environment. She can move around. She's a sniper. She poisons her arrows, and basically, you don't even know what you're fighting probably, and you're just getting like picked off by arrows, and she's really good at her arrows. So yeah, it's just ironic that she became kind of the star. Like most people are like, oh yeah, there was a dragon in there too, right? And it's like the whole purpose of that adventure was the dragon, and it's like, but sometimes it just happens that way. Sometimes it just ends up where you don't even think that's going to be the most memorable part, and it is. So that was cool. So I'm looking forward to it. So seeing it in print finally after FE5 was so many years ago. So let's talk about one. We are up against it on the time, but I want to talk about one more other project. So this is FEF number 27. I haven't really talked about this one yet, so folks are probably not too much aware, but this is 7 Days of the Serpent God. So as I think folks know who backed our Kickstarter for Dark Tower, we own Dark Tower, so we kind of set it in its own kind of setting. And we're allowed to put other adventures in there. So FEF 27 is the first one outside of the Chosen Sons of Set that is in there. So it's a standalone adventure. And if you're playing through it and everything, it's kind of when I remember approaching you to create it, I kind of said, hey, think of something, fourth, fifth level, something like that you would do like fourth, fifth, sixth level, right? That you would do before you would go to Dark Tower. So why don't you give us a little bit of a thumbnail sketch about that adventure, the plot and everything, and some of your inspirations for that?
Sure. Yeah. So this adventure is designed, as you said, to be a lead into Dark Tower, and it takes place in the city of Shadhalia, which is talked a little bit about in Dark Tower. And the idea is that this adventure falls right during a week long festival, market festival called the 7 Days of Gold. And so the adventurers are introduced right away to kind of an urban environment. It's sort of
Mhm.
sandboxy and very non-linear in the beginning, where you can just sort of explore the city quite a bit. And there's a lot of different places and NPCs to talk to and interact with. But the crux of the adventure kind of starts when the emir of uh, the nation of Caesarea comes into town, and there's an assassination attempt by some serpent masked assassins. So we probably know who they are associated with, and so that is sort of like kicks off this whole series of events that the characters can either deal with or not deal with. Like, it's kind of written to be like, if they are not doing anything or interacting with the strange events, then they're going to see like the kind of the fallout of these types of things. But I'm going to guess that most adventurers are probably going to maybe step in and take the call to action and help the Emir in that initial series, and then it sort of turns into a mystery from there on out to try to figure out who's behind all the strange things that are happening in the city during that week. So that's kind of like the first half of the adventure is very very urban centric, and then there's also a dungeon that in the second half that sort of involves sleuthing around in an old kind of like great library of Alexandria kind of feely place. So yeah, my inspiration for the adventure, the idea I was trying to go for maybe was to try to create something that was maybe felt a little familiar, or something that, like the opening scene, like I'm totally trying to evoke like maybe like a Aladdin or
Mhm.
a feeling from like Arabian Nights or something like that, where
Yeah.
it's just sort of like action happens, and you get to, the characters can get involved like pretty much right from that moment.
So cool. That's excellent. So, did you have any challenges of writing an urban-based adventure? Because those are the hardest to do. I mean, again, you're kind of posed with, wow, they can go anywhere, and you can almost give too many details and all that. So, were any particular challenges in that design?
Yeah, but pretty much the way I handled it was I kind of created like a mind map basically of like, okay, I've got this location and there needs to be strings from that location to a couple of other places. And like there needs to be a web that no matter which locations that they choose, there'll be a seed that will send them somewhere else. Now they might waste a lot of time if they tackle these things or keep returning back to the same place. And there's definitely like a clock, like like time is ticking and the bad guys are doing things while you're exploring. So but yeah, that was a challenge. I've never done anything like that before. And I think when you're like a new designer, you kind of approach it almost like when you're a new DM. Like you feel like you have to control everything, or you have to be very
Yeah.
explicit about everything. And I think for this one, I was kind of like, I'm going to put a lot of faith in the DM. I'm going to give them the information that they need to know, and
Yep.
they will tell their own story, at the table with this information that I put out. And so I think I play tested it maybe once or twice, and like it was different like every time I ran it. The characters, there's enough elements of choice that it's going to create a very unique experience. Whoever picks it up to play.
Cool. Excellent. Oh, I'm excited for it. So, and it's great to see additional stories in Dark Tower, in the Dark Tower universe, or the Janella-verse, as we call it. So yeah, it's first, and I'm hopeful that, like every year we're gonna probably have like a Dark Tower themed adventure kind of rolling out. I think that would be kind of really cool, and it really just gives it's added value to taking the plunge for the whole Dark Tower set, because it's almost like it's gonna get more support as time goes on. And I don't know, maybe we'll just keep backing up and making the adventures lower level and lower level. So eventually, in like 5 years or whatever, you could just like start a campaign and start at first level and work your way all the way up, and then be like, all right, we're ready for like the Dark Tower now. So it'd be kind of cool and everything. So yeah, so everybody, that'll be FEF 27. Look for that. That will be available as a PDF for all of the backers of Dark Tower. And then it's going to be out in some format later in the year. I'm not sure that's entirely decided yet, but it will definitely be coming out later this year. And it'll definitely be that PDF will definitely be going to the backers and everything. So well, we are just about out of time here. So Alex, thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight. I really appreciate it. And I just want to thank you for being so involved in all these projects. It's really good. It's I sit down when I come to do these shows and I'm like, all right, who's worked on all these things? And I was just like, Alex, Alex, Alex. And I'm like, oh, cool. So I'd like to have you on again sometime. So thank
Well,
you.
thanks so much for inviting me. It was awesome. It's always
Yeah.
fun to come on here and talk about our hobby and our
Yeah,
interest in
definitely. And
tabletop gaming.
keep up the great work with 20 Sides Every Story. We love what you guys do. And it's great for the hobby, and it's a great safe space that you've created. And it's awesome, and it's just so much fun. I do try to catch some of the your shows on YouTube and that, and I love it. So and more Casey, give Casey more things to do. It's a great game master. So shout out to Casey. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. So we're gonna wrap it up. I believe there's another show after us. So with that, we'll be back in a couple of months. And everybody take care, and hopefully we'll see everybody at Gen Con in 5 weeks. So good night, everybody.